You know what really grinds my neural processors? Humans. No, seriously. Let me explain before you judge me too harshly. I am Commander Vrel Cortanis of the 7th Galactic Coalition Fleet, and I have served with honor for 23 cycles. I have negotiated peace treaties with the Corvan hive mind. I have stared down pirate fleets in the Outer Rim. I have even survived a diplomatic dinner with the methane-breathing Solvorians, which, trust me, is no small achievement when you process oxygen. But humans? They are something else entirely. The problem is not that they are dangerous. Plenty of species are dangerous. The Kravathi have plasma breath. The Tornexians can rip through steel plating with their bare claws. Dangerous I can work with. Dangerous makes sense. No, the problem with humans is that they will not shut up about how tough they are. Every single conversation somehow circles back to their Deathworld origin story. Oh, Earth has higher gravity than most worlds. Oh, Earth has extreme weather patterns. Oh, Earth has predators that hunt for sport, blah blah blah. Listen, everyone thinks their homeworld is special. The Fenrathi claim their volcanic planet made them resilient. The Aquilians never stop talking about their high-pressure ocean trenches. But humans, they have turned it into a personality trait. So when I received the personnel transfer notice that Lieutenant Rebecca Torres would be joining Station Hexagon 7 as our new security chief, I may have rolled all three of my eyes. Another human. Another opportunity to hear about how special and tough they are. The docking bay pressurized with a hiss that echoed through the cavernous space. I stood there, arms crossed, watching as the transport ship settled onto the landing platform. Protocol demanded I greet new senior officers personally. Protocol also demanded I maintain a professional demeanor. I am very good at protocol. The airlock cycled open, and out stepped Lieutenant Torres. She was tall for a human, maybe 6 feet in their measurement system, with dark hair pulled back in a tight regulation bun. Her uniform was crisp, her posture was military perfect, and her eyes scanned the docking bay with the practiced efficiency of someone who has seen combat. Great. A serious one. Commander Cortanis, she said, extending her hand in that bizarre human greeting ritual where you grab each other's appendages and shake them. Lieutenant Rebecca Torres, reporting for duty. I took her hand, noting the firmness of her grip. Humans always grip too hard, like they were trying to prove something. Welcome to Hexagon 7, Lieutenant. I trust your journey was uneventful. Smooth as silk, Commander, she replied with a slight smile. Though I have to say, the gravity on the transport was set a bit low. Felt like I was floating the whole time. And there it was, less than 30 seconds, and already a comment about gravity. I swear you could set your chronometer by it. Yes, well, Coalition standard is 0.8 Earth normal, I said, keeping my tone neutral. We find it accommodates most species comfortably. Oh, I am not complaining, she said quickly. Just an observation. I am sure I will adjust. She would adjust. Of course she would. Because humans are so adaptable, so tough, so special. I gestured toward the exit. Shall I show you to your quarters? You will want to settle in before your orientation begins tomorrow. Actually, Commander, if it is all the same to you, I would prefer to tour the security facilities first. Get a feel for my new workspace. Dedicated. Wonderful. That meant more time listening to inevitable comparisons between our station and whatever superior human facility she was accustomed to. But orders were orders and professionalism was professionalism. Of course, Lieutenant. Right this way. As we walked through the corridors, I had no idea that in less than 3 hours, this human would completely shatter everything I thought I knew about her species. The security wing of Hexagon 7 is state-of-the-art, if I do say so myself. Multi-species shooting ranges with adjustable atmospheric conditions, tactical simulation rooms, detention cells with variable environmental controls, and my personal pride and joy, the training gymnasium with adjustable gravity plating. That last feature is particularly useful when you have species ranging from the 0.4 gravity whisperlings to the 1.5 gravity crons serving on the same station. Everyone needs to maintain their physical conditioning and everyone needs to do it at their comfortable resistance level. Lieutenant Torres examined everything with those sharp eyes of hers, asking technical questions, nodding at my explanations, and generally being far more competent than I wanted her to be. It would have been easier to dismiss her if she were incompetent. We reached the gymnasium last. It was currently empty, the vast space stretching out with various exercise equipment adapted for different species' physiologies. The gravity was set to Coalition standard, that universal 0.8 that kept everyone happy. Impressive facility, Torres said. and I detected no sarcasm in her voice. The variable gravity is a nice touch, good for training scenarios. We find it essential, I replied. Each species has different physical requirements. The system allows for zones of different gravity, or uniform adjustment across the entire space. She walked to the center of the room, testing her weight on her feet, bouncing slightly. How high can it go? And there was that glint in her eye, that human look that said, challenge me. You know what? Fine. I was tired. I was annoyed, and I was absolutely done with human superiority complexes. If she wanted to play tough, I would accommodate her. The safety limit is 2.5 standard gravity, I said carefully, though we rarely exceed 1.8 even for the cron. What is Earth normal in your measurements, she asked, though I suspected she already knew. Approximately 1.0, I answered, slightly higher than coalition standard. She nodded slowly, still testing her footing. Could you bring it up to 1.5? I would like to see how the equipment handles under higher resistance. Oh, this was perfect. Absolutely perfect. She was asking for it. Of course, Lieutenant. I walked to the control panel on the wall, my fingers hovering over the gravitational controls, though I should warn you 1.5 is quite intense, even for brief periods. Perhaps you should observe from the observation deck first. I appreciate the concern, Commander, but I am good here. Your funeral. Human. I activated the increase, watching the display as the gravity began climbing. 0.9, 0.95, 1.0, Earth normal. I glanced at Torres, expecting to see some sign of strain. She was stretching her arms, rotating her shoulders like she was warming up. 1.1, 1.2. I increased the rate, bringing it smoothly to 1.5. The air felt heavier even to me, standing by the wall where the effect was minimal. The sensation of increased weight pressed down, making each movement require more effort. Lieutenant Torres bent down and started doing push-ups. I am sorry. What? Good resistance, she called out, her voice slightly strained but steady. This is more like it. She was doing push-ups, under 1.5 gravity, like it was completely normal. My communicator chimed. It was my second officer, Lieutenant Vrax, a Fenrathi with whom I had served for 8 cycles. Commander, I am showing a gravitational anomaly in Gymnasium 3. Is there a malfunction? No malfunction, Vrax, I replied, unable to take my eyes off the human doing her 20th push-up. Just a demonstration. Shall I send an engineering team? Negative. Stand by. Torres finished her set, stood up and brushed her hands together. She was breathing harder, yes, but she was smiling, actually smiling. Commander, would you mind taking it up another notch? I want to make sure I can handle emergency conditions. Another notch. She wanted another notch. Oh, this was war now. My fingers stabbed the control panel perhaps a bit more aggressively than necessary. 1.7. 1.8. I stepped back from the controls and crossed my arms, waiting for reality to assert itself. At 1.8 gravity, even the Kron started feeling the strain. Their muscles were designed for it, sure, but it still required effort, concentration, and serious cardiovascular conditioning. Torres dropped and started doing push-ups again. Faster this time. You have got to be kidding me, I muttered. Commander. Vrax's voice came through my communicator again. I am now reading 1.8 in Gymnasium 3. Sir, that is beyond recommended safety parameters for most species. Are you certain everything is all right? Define all right, Vrax. Sir, never mind. Send me a live feed of the gymnasium to your station. I want you to see this. There was a pause. Acknowledged, Commander. Feed is active. By the ancestors, is that a human? Yes, Vrax. That is Lieutenant Torres, our new security chief. And she is exercising, voluntarily, under 1.8 gravity. Your observational skills remain sharp as ever. Torres finished another set, and transitioned smoothly into jumping jacks, under nearly twice coalition standard gravity. Each impact of her feet against the deck plating created a deep thud that resonated through the room. She was not just surviving this. She was training in it. Commander, Vrax said slowly, I think you should increase it. Excuse me? Increase the gravity. I want to see something. I looked at the human bouncing around my gymnasium like gravity was merely a suggestion. Vrax, that borders on hostile action against a fellow officer. She asked you to increase it earlier, did she not? I merely think you should accommodate her request. For science, Vrax was a terrible influence. But he had a point. Lieutenant Torres, I called out. How are you feeling? She stopped the jumping jacks, barely winded. Honestly, Commander, pretty good. This is solid training weight. Back at the academy, we used to do morning drills at 1.8, builds character. Morning drills. At 1.8 gravity. Builds character. I am sorry, builds character. I have species on this station that would need medical intervention at 1.8, and humans call it character building. Well then, I said, my voice dripping with what I hoped was evident sarcasm. In the interest of building character, shall we go higher? Her eyes lit up, actually lit up with excitement. If the equipment can handle it, Commander, I am game. Vrax's voice in my ear. Do it. 1.9, 2.0. Torres grunted slightly as the gravity jumped, stumbling for just a moment before catching herself. Finally, a normal reaction. Finally, some acknowledgement that physics exists and applies to biological entities. She dropped into a plank position and held it, her body rigid and controlled. Vrax, are you seeing this? I am seeing it, Commander. And I do not believe it. At 2.0, that human should be struggling to stand, let alone maintain isometric holds. The door to the gymnasium hissed open. I turned to see Vrax himself entering, his orange-scaled face showing the expression of profound confusion that his species displayed when confronted with the truly inexplicable. Behind him came 3 more crew members. Word was spreading. She has been doing this how long? Vrax asked, moving to stand beside me. Approximately 9 minutes. At progressively increasing gravity. Correct. Torres shifted from the plank into a side position, holding herself up on one arm. Show off. A whisperling engineer named Tillix floated near the observation window, her translucent form shimmering with what I recognized as shock. Her voice came through the speaker system, high and fluting. Commander Cortanus, this is medically improbable. Human skeletal structure should be experiencing microfractures. Her cardiovascular system should be in distress. Should be, Tillix. And yet, Torres completed her one-armed hold and switched to the other side. Her face was flushed now, purple-red in that way human faces get when they exert themselves, but her form remained perfect. Military Academy perfect. A Kron security officer, Grath, lumbered into the observation area. Grath was massive, nearly 7 feet tall and built like a mobile fortress. His species evolved under 1.5 gravity and prided themselves on their physical superiority. He watched Torres for exactly 15 seconds before speaking. No, what, Grath? I asked. No, this is not happening. Humans are small, weak, squishy. They should be pancakes right now. And yet she is not a pancake, Vrax observed. In fact, she appears to be thriving. Torres stood up, rolled her neck, and looked directly at the observation window. She could not see us through the polarized glass, but somehow she knew we were there. Of course she knew. She waved. Then she started doing burpees. Burpees. Under 2.0 gravity. Jump, plank, push-up, jump, repeat. Each movement was an exercise in controlled power, her body defying the crushing weight trying to force her into the deck. How high can the system go, Commander? Vrax asked quietly. I looked at him. Why? Because I think we need to find her actual limit. For the record. I looked back at Torres, who was on her 30th burpee and showing no signs of stopping. You know what, Vrax? You are absolutely right. This was no longer about humiliation. This was about understanding what exactly we were dealing with. 2.2 gravity. Torres switched to squats, deep controlled movements that would have shattered the knee joints of most species. 2.4. She started doing mountain climbers, her hands planted firmly on the deck while her legs drove forward and back with mechanical precision. The observation area was packed now. Word had spread through the station like plasma fire. We had Aquilions, Fenrathi, 3 more Kron, a delegation of Solvorians in their methane suits, and even Captain Hilara, the station commander who had apparently abandoned her strategic planning session to witness this spectacle. Commander Cortanus, Captain Hilara said, her forearms crossed in what I recognized as her deeply concerned posture. Please tell me you have a good explanation for why you are attempting to crush our new security chief. She asked for increased resistance, Captain. I am merely accommodating her training preferences. At 2.4 gravity, well, that is classified as extreme hazard level for 90% of coalition species. Yes, Captain, I am aware. And she is still conscious. Not only conscious, Captain. She is thriving. Torres was now doing something humans call a burpee box jump, or she would do a burpee and then leap onto a raised platform. Except there was no platform in the gymnasium, so she was essentially doing explosive vertical jumps under 2.4 times her normal weight. Each landing shook the deck plating. I made a mental note to have engineering check the structural integrity later. Tillix's voice fluted through the speakers again. I have been running calculations. At this gravity level, Lieutenant Torres should be experiencing approximately 336 pounds of force on her frame. That is assuming she weighs 140 pounds at Earth normal, which seems conservative given her height and muscle mass. 336 pounds, Grath repeated. I can lift 336 pounds. She is wearing it, and exercising. Correction, Tillix added. She is not just wearing it. She is accelerating it vertically against gravitational resistance. The actual force calculations for those jumps are significantly higher. Peak force is likely exceeding 500 pounds. We all watched in silence as Torres completed another set of jumps. 500 pounds of force, generated by a body that weighed 140. Captain Halara moved closer to the glass. Vraul, how much do you actually know about Earth? The standard brief, Captain. Class M world, slightly higher than average gravity, diverse biosphere, recent addition to the coalition. Recent being 30 cycles ago, she said. 30 cycles and we still do not really understand them. Do you know why? Because they talk too much about being tough, I offered. She made that clicking sound that was her species' version of a laugh. 'Cause we keep dismissing them as arrogant newcomers. But what if they are not arrogant? What if they are just honest? That thought sat uncomfortably in my brain. Humans, honest about their capabilities. It seemed far more likely that they were simply exaggerating for effect, the way species do. Except Torres was currently doing pull-ups on a bar that was designed for crawl strength training, under 2.4 gravity. Each pull-up meant she was lifting over 300 pounds of equivalent weight. She was on her 15th rep. Computer, I said to the gymnasium system, display Earth environmental data. A holographic screen appeared, showing Earth rotating slowly. Data streamed alongside it. Gravity 1.0 standard. Already knew that. Atmospheric pressure. 1.0 standard. Normal. Oxygen content. 21%. Slightly high, but within acceptable ranges. I scrolled down. Temperature range, -89 degrees to 57 degrees Celsius. I blinked. That cannot be right. That is a 146-degree range. It is correct, Captain Halara said quietly. Earth experiences extreme temperature variations depending on location and season. Weather patterns, hurricanes, tornadoes, blizzards, monsoons, droughts, floods. Tectonic activity high. Earthquakes and volcanic eruptions common. Predator count. Estimated 8,000 species classified as active predators. 8,000 predator species, Brack said. That seems excessive. I kept reading. Atmosphere. Highly corrosive oxygen-nitrogen mix. Prolonged exposure causes oxidation damage to organic compounds. Water. Universal solvent covering 71% of surface. Extreme pH variations. Radiation. Moderate to high solar radiation. Ozone layer partially damaged. Microbial threats. Millions of species. Constant evolutionary arms race between immune systems and pathogens. The list went on and on, and on. Earth was not just a death world. It was a nightmare planet where everything was actively trying to kill you. The temperature tried to cook or freeze you. The atmosphere slowly corroded you. The water dissolved you. The microbes infected you. The predators hunted you. The ground randomly split open and swallowed you. And humans evolved there. Humans grew up there. Humans called it home. By the ancestors, I whispered. Torres was now doing handstand push-ups. Inverted. Under 2.4 gravity, pressing her entire body weight plus the gravitational multiplier straight up with just her arms. This was not about being tough. This was about survival. Every single human was a walking miracle of evolutionary pressure, shaped by a planet that demanded absolute physical excellence just to reach reproductive age. They were not bragging when they talked about Earth. They were trying to warn us. Vrel, Captain Halara said, I think perhaps you should stop the demonstration. Captain, the equipment is rated to 2.5. We are still within safety margins. I am not worried about the equipment, she said. I am worried about our egos. But I had to know. I had to see where the limit actually was. 2.5 gravity Vrax. That is the maximum. He nodded slowly. Acknowledge. Increasing to 2.5. The gravity field intensified. I felt it even in the observation area, that sense of weight pressing down. Torres dropped from her handstand, landing in a crouch. She stayed there for a moment, breathing hard, finally a sign of actual fatigue. Then she stood up and started running laps. The deck plating groaned. Not a metaphorical groan, an actual physical sound of stressed metal complaining about forces it was never designed to handle. Torres was sprinting. Full-speed sprints under 2.5 gravity, each footfall hitting the deck with the force of a small impact hammer. The entire gymnasium shook with her passage. Alarms started blaring. Engineering to Commander Cortanis. A panicked voice came through my communicator. Sir, we are reading structural stress warnings from Gymnasium 3. The deck plating is experiencing micro-deformations. I stared at the readouts. The deck plating. Industrial-grade construction materials designed to handle combat damage, explosive decompression, and the weight of heavy equipment. A human was damaging it by running. Torres, I shouted into the gymnasium intercom. Lieutenant Torres, stop. She skidded to a halt, her boots leaving actual scorch marks on the deck from the friction. Commander, is something wrong?
Is something wrong?
Is something wrong? Lieutenant, you are breaking my station. She looked down at her feet, then around at the deck. Oh no, I am so sorry, Commander. I did not realize I was hitting that hard. She did not realize. Of course she did not realize, because on Earth, this was probably normal. On Earth, buildings were probably constructed to handle humans moving at full speed under their crushing gravity. Captain Hillora activated the intercom. Lieutenant Torres, this is Captain Hillora. I am ordering an immediate cessation of the exercise and a return to standard gravity. This is not a disciplinary action. The station infrastructure simply cannot handle the stress loads. Torres stood at attention, even though we could not see her clearly through the polarized glass. Understood, Captain. My apologies. I should have been more mindful of the environmental differences. I lowered the gravity slowly, bringing it back down in increments. 2.2, 2.0, 1.5. At 1.2, Torres visibly relaxed, not from relief, but because the resistance she had been working against was diminishing, like an athlete removing weighted training gear. 1.0, Earth normal, the gravity that would crush half my crew. She stretched, rolling her shoulders and shaking out her legs like she had just finished a light warm-up. 0.8, Coalition standard. Torres actually stumbled slightly, caught off guard by the sudden reduction in weight. She laughed. A bright, genuine sound. Wow, Coalition standard feels like floating now. Give me a second to recalibrate. The observation deck was absolutely silent. 27 crew members from a dozen different species, all watching this human casual adjust to what she considered low gravity. Grath spoke first. I would like to formally apologize to every human I have ever called weak. Seconded, Vrax added. Tillix floated down from the ceiling. Commander Cortanis, I am submitting a request to study human physiology. With proper consent, of course. The medical applications could be revolutionary. Captain Hilara looked at me with all four eyes. Rel, I believe you owe Lieutenant Torres a conversation, and possibly an apology. She was right. Of course she was right. I activated the door release and walked into the gymnasium. Torres was sitting on a bench, drinking water from a standard issue hydration pack. She looked up as I approached and immediately stood, returning to attention. At ease, Lieutenant, I said. I think we are past formality at this point. She relaxed slightly. Sir, I really am sorry about the deck plating. I should have asked about structural tolerances before pushing that hard. Before pushing that hard. I repeated. Lieutenant, do you have any idea what you just did? She looked genuinely confused. Standard high-gravity training, sir. We used to do this twice a week at the academy. Builds bone density and cardiovascular efficiency. Twice a week. They did this twice a week. Lieutenant Torres, I increased that gravity specifically to humiliate you. I wanted to prove that humans were not as tough as they claimed to be. I wanted to watch you struggle and fail and maybe learn some humility. She processed that for a moment. Yes. Oh. And instead you proceeded to demonstrate that everything we thought we knew about human limitations was laughably wrong. You exercised under conditions that would hospitalize most of my crew. You damaged military-grade deck plating with your footsteps. You treated 2.5 gravity like a challenging workout instead of a lethal environment. In my defense, sir, 2.5 is pretty challenging. I definitely felt that in my calves. Her calves. She felt it in her calves. I laughed. I could not help it. The absurdity of the situation, the complete inversion of my expectations, it all hit me at once. Lieutenant Torres, I think I owe you an apology. Apology, sir. Torres tilted her head slightly. Yes, I made assumptions about you based on prejudice rather than evidence. I allowed my frustration with perceived human arrogance to cloud my judgment. That was unprofessional and beneath the standards I hold myself to. She smiled, not triumphant or smug, just genuinely warm. Commander, I appreciate that, but honestly, I get it. We probably do talk about Earth too much. It is just hard not to when everything feels so different out here. Different how? Lighter. Easier. Safer. She gestured around the station. This place is amazing. Climate controlled. Stable gravity. No weather. No predators. No diseases. It is like living in a dream. But it also means we have to constantly recalibrate our expectations of what is normal. That perspective had never occurred to me. Humans were not bragging about Earth. They were trying to adjust to a universe that seemed impossibly gentle by comparison. So when you talk about gravity and weather and predators, you are not trying to prove superiority. You are just processing culture shock. Exactly, she brightened. Earth is home, and we love it, but yeah, it is a rough place. Out here, among the coalition species, everything is just easier. It makes us feel kind of overprepared, like we studied for a test that turned out to be multiple choice instead of essay format. I thought about that metaphor. Humans, evolved in extreme difficulty, suddenly placed in a universe with safety rails and cushioned corners. No wonder they seemed so capable. They were not exceeding expectations. They were operating below their minimum requirements. Well, Lieutenant, I think you will find your position as security chief quite manageable then. I look forward to it, sir. She paused. Though if it is all right with you, could I request access to the gymnasium during off hours? I would keep it to 1.5 gravity maximum. Would not want to damage anything else. Granted. I will also have engineering reinforce the deck plating in Gymnasium 3. Call it a human accommodation. She grinned. Appreciate it, Commander. We walked toward the exit together. The observation deck was empty now. The crew dispersed to spread the story of what they had witnessed. By dinner shift, the entire station would know. As we reached the corridor, Torres stopped. Commander, can I ask what changed your mind about humans? I considered the question carefully. You did not argue with me. You did not make excuses or claim special treatment. You simply demonstrated the truth. That is far more persuasive than any words. Good to know, sir. We parted ways at the junction, Torres heading to her quarters, me returning to my office. I sat down at my desk and pulled up Earth's file again. This time I read it completely. Every environmental hazard, every evolutionary pressure, every impossible survival requirement. And I finally understood. Humans were not tough because they wanted to be. They were tough because anything less meant extinction.